firstfreedomthink.com. That's firstfreedomthink, one word, .com. There you will find a library, for example, where you can access booklets and other materials that we have created to inform you about different aspects of rights and freedoms and all that pertains to them. You will also find further information about us, charts and other material that you can use to help others understand the different issues pertaining to human rights and freedoms. We also have 2 radio programs currently being aired on radio stations here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Rights of the People, there's a sister radio program on Star FM, that's 98.3 FM, and this comes to the nation every Sunday morning at 9:30 on Star FM. It's hosted by yours truly, Anissa Batiste. We also have a 1.5 hour long interactive radio program on Cross Country Radio, which is called Your Rights and You. This program comes to the nation every Tuesday evening from 7:30 until 9 p.m. and is hosted by 2 of our members, Calvert Batiste and Cheflon Ballantyne. These are means through which we seek to enlighten the nation and the listening public of the importance of rights and freedoms and of religious liberty, where our emphasis lies. We also have been involved in the distribution of booklets and other literature to the legal fraternity, members of the legal fraternity, to schools for their libraries for students and teachers. We've also been actively involved in writing and publishing articles concerning the constitutional reform process, because these things are of great importance to us as we consider our mandate, which is to provide the nation with human rights and freedoms education, with particular emphasis, as I've said before, on religious liberty. And so through these activities, we have been in one way or the other involved in carrying forth our mandate, and this program, The Rights of the People, is a new addition to our educational drive. Now that you know a little more about us, I would like to, for a brief moment, introduce you to what we like to call our unique approach, which is seen in our ideology. One of the things you will find about the Thusian Institute for Religious Liberty is that what separates us from the average human rights organization is our rights approach. Our ideology when it comes to the origins of the rights of humanity. We declare and believe that human beings everywhere have been endowed with fundamental rights and freedoms from the Creator God of the universe. Rights do not come from government or from government legislation in a House of Parliament or a Congress, as in the United States of America. Rights do not derive from a person's behavior being described as dignified. Even the man's behavior, which can be described as less than dignified, has rights and freedoms. Rights do not come from nature, as some have said, or even from a majority in power. Rights, simply put, my dear people, come from God when He created man and made him with certain natural basic functions and abilities in which we can clearly see that he was naturally made with these rights. And as we go along in future programs, you will see a bit more about that. But let me refer to our statement of beliefs to highlight at least 2 of those beliefs for you concerning our ideology on rights and freedoms. Again, I'm quoting to you from that brochure which I mentioned earlier. And under our statement of principles, the first principle we highlight is this. We believe that all human beings are created equal and endowed by our Creator with certain fundamental rights, which are as follows. 1. The right to serve God, or religious liberty. 2. The right to life. And 3. The right to private property. Yes, my dear people, all of humanity, regardless of your race, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of the village from which you hail, regardless of your social status in society. It matters not whether you went to university or you dropped out at school at the primary level. It matters not the job you hold or the position you have. It matters not your gender. It matters not your religious persuasion. All of humanity were created by God with fundamental rights. 3 fundamental rights which I've just read to you. The right to serve God, the right to private property, and the right to life. Okay? The right to serve God, the right to life, and the right to private property. And what we have seen is that all other rights and freedoms come under these 3 fundamental rights. When we go into future programs, you would understand further why the right to serve God, or religious liberty as it is called, in a context where everybody doesn't ascribe to the same idea of God, you will understand why this is indeed the first right, or the most supreme of the fundamental rights of humanity. Here is another one of our statements of principles or statements of belief. It has to do with the rights of God. Yes, you heard me correctly. Didn't you know that God has rights too? That same Creator who made man and endowed him with these fundamental rights, he himself has fundamental rights. They are: we believe that the Creator also has rights. The right to be worshipped alone by all. The right to be the only source of revelation to all. And thirdly, the right to be the only judge of all. These are the 3 fundamental rights of our Creator. And my dear people, I assure you that if persons can have respect for the rights of God, then they will certainly learn to have respect for the rights of their fellow men. Hence the reason why the rights of man which are given to him by God himself are not in any way separate from the fact that he himself has rights. Hence the reason further why the first right, or the most supreme of man's rights, is his right to serve that same God. For in so doing, he will serve his fellow men by respecting their rights and freedoms and ensuring that he doesn't do anything to infringe upon those rights and freedoms. Let me give you another of our statement of principles. Okay? I'll read this one for you. We believe that by virtue of the aforementioned rights, each individual has the right to self-determination, which makes that no other person or group or government can have the right to determine another person's choice or future, whether such course of action be deemed right or wrong. So, you may have your opinions about what career a person should pursue or what activity he or she should get involved in. The fact of the matter is that duty and that decision lies with the person themselves. After all, he or she has fundamental rights and freedoms which are personal, and that means that that individual themselves has the right to determine their life. What job they choose to hold, who they choose to marry, where they choose to live. Self-determination is something that comes naturally as a result of having natural rights and freedoms. And the sole purpose of government in any land is simply to be what you call the protectorate, or the body that protects the rights and freedoms of humanity. They are not to infringe upon the rights of humanity, but to protect them. And this is the sort of thing that we would be educating you upon. Listen to this very important statement of principle that we hold. It says, we believe that the 10 Commandments is the de facto ideological source of the basic rights of man. Yes, my dear people. The 10 Commandments of God, which can be found in the Holy Bible, actually